Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's episode of Paranormal Encyclopedia. As always, I'm your host, Kevin Mears, the demonologist in Paranormal Encyclopedia. I'm joined by
Baron Voltage, a recreational hypnotist, and a small medium at large. I finally got that joke! Yes!
And of course,
Brian McKinley, vampire author and godfather of vampire thrillers.
and we have a guest tonight who's our good friend of the show and a great YouTuber,
Yes.
Virgo Triad. Virgo, you there?
Hi, everybody.
Hey!
Hey.
Hello.
So there's a couple quick things before we get into tonight's interview. One is we need to do our first ad, of course, which is, folks, I definitely recommend checking out, if you haven't already, Audible. It's a great source for audiobooks. There are tens of thousands. And if you go to our link, which is audibletrial.com/paranormal and the letter E, audibletrial.com/paranormal-E, you get a free 1-month trial and a free audiobook. If you cancel the trial, you get to keep your audiobook. Again, tens of thousands of choices. All of Brian's books are on there.
Good reads.
Tons of other really good choices, all that you can get for free. There's the massive collection, the most complete collection of vampire stories ever that I got. That's 50 hours of vampire stories covering over 100 years.
All of Anne Rice's work as well.
Yes. And Bram Stoker and everybody else. It's a great option.
Yes.
I do know that I have somebody specific listening who has challenged me to address the subject of ghosts in the Bible. That's not tonight's subject, so we're not going to be getting into that. But for you who's listening, I'll make a point to cover it next week, since
We were still doing angels at one point. So.
yeah.
We'll visit it.
So also,
They'll be there.
To let you guys know, well, no, this is somebody who doesn't like me very much.
Oh, good.
But to let you know, there's a couple of special events that have happened. One is that last week marked the 3-year anniversary since I first started on YouTube. The other,
Wow.
Yes.
yeah, I've been doing this a long time.
Golf clap.
Yes, golf clap.
And then the other one is that next Thursday is going to be 1 year since we started here at Hamilton.
Yeah.
Again, we're going to be doing the big thing for the 50th episode to encompass all three, but we're still going to do kind of a retrospective. We're going to reach out to some guests and see if they'd like to call in for next week. But that pretty much brings us up to date. So you've been a guest before, Virgo, but for anyone who's new, why don't you introduce yourself and exactly what it is you do on YouTube?
Okay. I am the owner and operator of the Virgo Triad channel, and primarily what we do is debunk scams, and we expose con artists, and if you want to take a look on YouTube, just go to the, just type in Virgo Triad. It will come up for you, and you'll be able to see about 240 videos where we have exposed different con artists and different scams. We do a lot of looking into the sovereign citizen scams and the Patriot movement scams. So that's primarily what we're doing.
All the awesome.
We
What
thank you for
avoiding
that.
international justice, of course.
Yes. International fugitive from justice.
So did anything ever more come out of that?
Out of the,
Arrest
I'm
warrant.
sorry, repeat that, please.
Did anything
The
more come
arrest
out of the other
warrant.
warrant? Out of the arrest warrant?
Yes, the bogus arrest warrant. Actually, it's still under investigation. I mean, that occurred in early June, and they've had it, the FBI's had it, since then. And they've checked in with me a couple of times, but the bottom line is it's just still in investigation. There isn't anything else that's come out of it from the other side, if that's what you're asking. Nothing at all. I haven't heard anything from them.
Good.
That's
But
always
yeah,
good to hear.
they wrote some ridiculous things, of course, and so, but it was quite threatening, and as a result of that, it had to be turned over to the law enforcement. And I know that they're still investigating it. They won't say much of anything until they have completed that. But as far as the people that they're investigating, not one word has come from them that I'm aware of. No one has sent anything to me, in other words.
Good.
Yeah.
That's always awesome.
So, just so that everybody knows, the reason why this supposed attempted murder arrest warrant was issued, it is bogus. It was issued because I said the word sovereign citizen in front of a man's name. I was reading an actual article from the Southern Poverty Law Center, and as a result of that, they decided that, it wasn't the person who wrote the article's fault. It was Virgo's fault. So we're going to go after her for quote-unquote attempted murder. How that translates into attempted murder, I couldn't tell you. But
not by any
that's
reasonable convolution of the law.
But no one in the sovereign citizen movement seems to qualify as reasonable.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I mean, the mere term alone kind of gives me a headache.
I can't imagine most of these guys have even seen an episode of Law and Order, much less actually studied real law.
They don't even
I found after actually looking into the majority, for the last couple of years, the majority of these people get their laws from what I would call a jailhouse lawyer.
Okay.
And that's, kind of how they learn it all. Then there's those that decide that they want to go to YouTube University and learn it. So, we have kind of a different grouping of individuals depending on what group you're talking about. If you're talking about Freemen on the Land or the Moors, or if you're talking about the people that are just plain calling themselves sovereign citizens or sovereigns, the Patriot movement, they all get their information from websites, blogs, but the majority, jailhouse lawyers.
Yeah. Well, the irony, particularly with the Moorish Science Temple, which is what the Moorish Americans are loosely affiliated with, is the actual Moorish Science Temple, which is a bit of an unusual religious movement to begin with, condemns the sovereign side of what. It's like, no, don't do this nonsense. It's ridiculous. So they're not even mainstream Moorish Americans by that definition.
Oh man, it's
Well, there is a person that is part of our little group, watchdog group, I guess you would call it, that actually contacted the Moorish Temple, Science Temple group and spoke to them, and they informed him that absolutely they do not approve of what the Moorish, so to speak, that are on making videos and spreading the sovereign citizen nonsense. They do not approve of any of that. They have absolutely no idea where they have gotten it from, but it certainly is not the Science Temple. So,
I think 99.
We've addressed that also.
Yeah, I think 99% of the Moorish Americans that are claiming to be sovereigns probably are like everybody else. They saw a YouTube video, they met a jailhouse lawyer, they've read a bunch of conspiracy websites. They don't even. Most of them seem to, I think, probably barely know about the actual Moorish Science Temple.
What is that anyway?
Well, the thing is that the majority of the time, these people end up falling into it for one reason or another that has to do with attempting to try to get out of some sort of legal trouble.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's just a traffic ticket, and there's so much misinformation all over the place online, but primarily within these sovereign citizen groups. And please just don't misunderstand me. When I say sovereign citizen, I'm specifically talking about those that are under that umbrella name. So the Freemen on the Land, the Moorish, the sovereigns, the different groups that fall under that umbrella.
Because there are a lot of them.
I'm sorry?
There are a lot of them.
There are a lot. And they primarily they get their information off of videos and off of websites, and there is so much misinformation, it is scary.
Yeah, I mean,
it is really scary. I mean, we've gone on and attempted to try to show where if you actually do a Google search just for certain taglines that they use, you come up with pages and pages of nothing but information that's inaccurate. And before you ever get to anything that's real. So it's really kind of scary in terms of what the general public would be able to pick up and think that it's accurate. But anyway, these guys primarily get into this or fall into this because they're looking to get out of some form of legal trouble.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you look at the sad part is you look at some of the videos that Van or Balin or Scam Stingers put up, and it's like You guys realized you just talked yourself into more legal trouble than you started with.
Yeah.
Because you get these people.
Yeah.
It's like the cops are going to give them a warning and let them go, and now they're getting taken to jail.
Exactly. And it's really interesting how cultish these types of things become, because it's almost like they get it in their, it somehow gets hardwired into their mind. And then it no longer is just, I want to get out of this traffic ticket, or I want to get out of this court case. Now it becomes a matter of, no, I know my rights, and I'm going to stand up for my rights. And they never really actually truly investigate what their rights are versus what they aren't, or what is legally accurate versus what is pseudo-law.
I can actually, I might be able to psychologically explain that. That there is a psychological explanation behind that, though. It's it's something that we run into a little bit when it comes to the hypnosis world, where people will allow themselves to exhibit or experience certain types of behavior that they normally would not, and the only reason why they're as inhibited as they are is they don't have anybody to blame for it. And a person tends to be a lot more susceptible to, for instance, acting like a chicken if they could point the finger at somebody and say they did it, more than anything else. And when you're dealing with stuff along the lines of, like, you know, scamsters, legal troubles, and what have you, as long as they can place themselves under any sort of umbrella, label, organization, one way or the other, that will foster along the lines of, it's not your fault. You know, you ate that light doing about 105 and slammed into the... It's not your fault. It's the fault of the Big Brother conspiracy, you know, rawr. And it gives a person a nice warm feeling. It boosts the serotonin and God knows how many other brain chemicals going through the brain, where you all of a sudden feel justified for being a total and absolute douche.
Yeah.
Just about right.
I think you can attest to the fact that I just recently did a video on the fact that people enjoy the feeling of actual rage. It gives them that
absolutely correct.
Adrenaline punch that they're looking for in order to feel more powerful than who they perceive their attacker to be.
Of course, because the rage in and of itself, it boosts the adrenaline, it kicks every single bit of your, it kicks the heart rate up. It's like a drug.
Yeah, it very much is.
Or get to my vein.
But so I mean,
mainline the rage.
A lot of this, and I'm not complaining because it's all good, but we're covering what we did last time. So what we did want to do this time was get a little into some of, because you're very much a watchdog and talking about scams. And aside from the reality of there's a lot of this sovereign nonsense, there's also the reality of the paranormal scams. And
absolutely, I can imagine.
You have a poltergeist? We can help you. Just give us your credit card number.
Well, one of the first most common ones you'll find is the curse, and this is particularly common, and I use the term loosely because I don't mean to disrespect the actual Romani, but the gypsy fortune tellers, who you'll come in to get a tarot reading, and these are the shops you'll find out on Main Street, things like that, and they'll tell you you're under a powerful curse. I can break the curse, and then they'll name probably at least $1,000.
Yep.
And then you'll come in.
Yeah, and I've heard instances where they continue. That's like a run-on scam.
Oh yes, you're absolutely right.
Keep feeding it.
They'll tell you, oh, you've got to do that, and the magician side of me almost admires part of it because they do use some real sleight of hand. Because you'll bring back the money, and they're like, oh well, I can't actually touch the money. The money itself is what's cursed and unclean. Put it into this bag, and then they'll set the bag on fire to destroy the money. But of course, they've since used sleight of hand to hide the money and walked off with it. But it seems like they just burned the money you gave them. Or they'll crack an egg and blood will come out of the egg instead of yolk.
Couple of mentalism tricks that they'll use left and right. Oh gosh, John Edward.
That was a little.
Oh God.
The
sorry.
mediums.
That was a little cold reading.
Oh yeah.
Yes, Brian,
cold reading.
exactly.
Yes.
The mediums are in particular, and this also covers a lot of psychics.
Come get a reading from Miss Cleo.
She's the channel today I found out did a video about her.
Yeah.
She's actually a pretty interesting person.
Yeah, I also heard about her as well.
Yeah.
You know, she's dead now. You heard about that?
Yes, I know.
Yep. Yep.
Never saw it coming.
You know, it wasn't actually her company. She's just she's a paid actress.
And one of like their most biggest producers of it too. She was getting a cut of the profits, but that was about it. And it's like, whoa.
She was the Billy Mays of psychics.
Hey, do not knock the great Billy Mays, okay? That man alone was the master of
cocaine.
No. That straight up, that is another manipulative tactic that he used, but it's also a marketing tactic. I'm not sure if you've heard of it before, Virgo. It's called neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, yes.
Yes, a king of it. He is like the greatest modern example of it, but he did it in a very harmless way. He wants you to buy this product. Here, it is the great and powerful sprinkling water. It's here for you. It will seal your problems. It will make you feel great. Call and buy it now. Yeah.
And hey, bullets free if you want to send us some money for the promotion there.
Yeah, right.
We'll take it.
There it is. You know, and I know that a lot of scam artists will take a look at individuals, like let's say, for instance, if you're doing a massive crowd bit. This is some of the stuff that I've done with my stage hypnosis. I take a look around the crowd, and I see who's reacting and paying attention the most, who's leaning forward, whose eyes are not on their phone, who's not looking elsewhere. There's an easy mark. And then I'll immediately start directing every single bit of my conversation to them, and I'll purposely spend a little bit more times with eye contact with them. And I'll start doing cold reading left and right just to get them a little bit more hooked. And the next thing you know, they want to be able to do stuff that they would have never thought they would have because they get to point the finger.
Well, cold readings so the thing about cold reading is used by scam artists all the time.
Oh, yes.
But it's used by lots of people. It's used by psychiatrists, it's used by hypnotists, it's used by stage magicians. I mean, we stage magicians make, especially mentalists, make our bread and butter off cold reading people.
It's fun.
And for people in the audience who are wondering what cold reading is, because I think that's a fair question, cold reading is playing statistical odds, as well as a bit of understanding how to read a person. Right now, speaking on the radio, with hopefully a couple hundred listeners.
Hopefully.
I can just about guarantee there's a middle-aged male listening right now who has recently lost a father figure in their life who was, just before they died, suffering from chest tightness, pain. And I guarantee there's somebody out there listening that all of this applies to. Because in a crowd of a couple hundred, there's probably at least one person who's middle-aged.
Oh, yeah.
On top of that, anyone who's middle-aged, there's a good chance that you've lost your father. And if not your father, well, your grandfather's still a father figure.
Or an uncle.
A very close uncle could be a father figure. And on top of that, one, heart disease is very common in the United States.
Cancer is another you could always pitch on.
Yeah. And two, I said tightness in the chest. I didn't say it was a heart attack. They'll find some people have it. It's also what's called the Barnum effect. People have a desire to believe. They will fill in the blanks that you leave. This is why you'll get a psychic who will go, "Who's Mary?" "Oh, my mother's name was Mary." And then when you ask the person later after their psychic reading, they'll say, "Oh, they knew my mother's name is Mary." No, they didn't. They just asked you who Mary was.
Exactly. Yeah, could have been your sister, could have been your cousin, could have been your kid.
Yeah. Could be you don't know anyone named Mary. And
exactly. Or hey, their name might be Mary.
Yeah.
There it is.
It
kicks in.
And the trick is, a lot of people, and this goes for all types of scams, and this goes for the sovereign movement. There's this feeling that I'm smarter than that. And the truth is, you probably aren't. If a performer is very good at what they do, if a con artist is very good, and this is where neuro-linguistic programming comes into it, they can sound very convincing.
Yeah.
And they can play.
Statistics actually state that more intelligent people actually get scammed more often
true.
Or fall for a scam more often than people with lower IQs. That's true.
I've had a heck of a lot easier time being able to NLP somebody out and do a cold read on somebody with 2 PhDs over somebody with a high school diploma. Every time. It's
I'll
fun.
bet you it's because of greater imagination, greater creativity, more of a desire.
Yeah, your cognitive skills don't necessarily come into play to stop your imagination from going wild. And people that have, larger or higher IQs and kind of we'll just say that people that are more intelligent, they have both. They have the capacity to have that massive imagination along with the cognitive skills.
And there's one other
the two don't tend to combine, especially if it's something that they want to hear.
Yeah. There's also one other little personality aspect that comes with that intelligence and all those credentials. Arrogance. Believing you'd be able to actually spot it easily. So you're not going to be looking that hard. So
narcissism is a big one that creates it'll make you a fool.
Oh yes, every time. I love doing it.
Here's another one that works very well. Education. The best speaking as a magician, because trust me, the psychology of being a magician is we're con artists that aren't trying to steal your money, basically. Basically, it's the same mentality. It's the same some of the same tricks that we're using. The more educated you are, often the easier it is to fool you. Because if I'm doing a very simple trick like levitating a dollar bill, there's 100 ways to do that. But there's a real simple one. I'm using a piece of what they call invisible thread. You can look it up online. It's very fine thread that's almost impossible to see. To levitate a dollar bill, and it's floating around. If I start talking about, I'm using the magnetic field of the Earth, and it's refracting off of my hand, the magnetism in my hands. Somebody who's only got a high school diploma or less is going to go, durr. Somebody who has an education, especially somebody who knows a little bit about physics but not that much, is going to listen to me because it's going to sound like something they've heard about. I can play off of what they know and what they think they know much easier than somebody who isn't.
Because it's a secondary form of misdirection. You're using their intelligence against them by making them associate with it, as opposed to... I'm not saying that people with a high school diploma only are less intelligent than people that have, gone on to med school or whatever. It just means that they've happened to study a particular subject extensively. When you're dealing with a con artist, however, their job, their goal is to screw with you. It is to fool you.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how much intelligence you might have in the medical field, the psychology field, or even as a magician. Their job is to screw you over and fool you and pull the wool over your eyes. They
actually all use a very similar set of steps in order to do that.
Oh, yes.
And the thing is that you might be great at doing practical illusions, maybe a little bit of mentalism here and there, and you'll be phenomenal at it. You've been doing it for years. But your job isn't to purposely use that against you. Their job is purposely to use your knowledge, experience, and general demeanor against you. This is how scam artists work. This is how cult leaders work.
Oh, yeah.
This is how, advertising agencies work. Telemarketers are known for it, too. Radio, I was about to say radio hosts.
Like with everything else, you can use these set of skills for positive or you can use them for negative.
Yes.
But unfortunately, in this case, they're used regularly in the negative. And, one of the things I wanted to mention is you were talking about kind of the run-on of the scam that goes on with, for example, a psychic cold reader. That's something that you can take a look at. Take a look at April LaJune and her packages. You will see that when somebody is not successful the first time they present something to be paid with this scam, what she will do is she'll add additional, that's because you didn't file this piece of paperwork, or you didn't file that piece of paperwork. So no problem, we'll get you set up to file those. And so it's a run-on scam that she can continue to collect money in addition on top of and keep you stringing along for months and months and months.
Sounds like a lawyer. We need about a $250 filing fee for that particular form. The sooner you can get that to me, the sooner we can actually push this process along.
Yes.
Some of the stuff I learned in my paralegal studies.
And this is what, Virgo, at the beginning of the show, you said that it's very similar to a cult. And you're absolutely right. The mindset is across the board very similar. And, as a devoutly religious person, let's be completely honest, religions work this way too.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, they do. Yes.
I'm reminded of there was an account of Jim Jones where his entire congregation was very, very holy. Okay? The best way to put it. All right? They hear the word. They think it's the word. It's fact. No problem whatsoever. He stood up on the pulpit. He held up a Bible. And he said, this thing has no power. Now, you have his entire congregation enthralled by him. But they're also enthralled by God in their minds and the book that the power holds over. And then he threw the book out into the congregation and it hit the ground. And he said, now, did you see anything happen to me? Is there a lightning bolt coming down to smite me? No, that must mean I'm more powerful than God. You must follow me, not the book. And they did.
And here's the dangerous thing. And this will get me in trouble with Christians listening.
Uh-oh.
But there are Christians who take the Bible a little too seriously. I'm a Christian.
You don't say.
The Bible is the inspired word of God. I am not claiming otherwise. But God is perfect and infallible. The Bible is a book. It is the most, I would agree that it is probably the single most perfect and infallible book ever written, but the Bible is not God.
The Bible is basically an early version of Wikipedia, which actually was probably edited more than any Wikipedia page in history.
Yeah.
You know, there's a reason why when you're writing a thesis or a doctorate or even a term paper in high school, they say you can't use it. Why? Not 100% reliable. You get some of the stuff that you need to know in there. You get a couple of details.
Well, we have to agree on two things here, guys. And one is that the Bible is not God, and two, Black's Law Dictionary
is also not God.
A law book.
Exactly. There you go.
Dictionary, okay?
Especially, well, let's be clear. The second edition that was printed in like 1910 really isn't a law book. Because it's not just that they quote Black's Law Dictionary, and they quote it wrong, by the way.
There you go.
It's that they quote one that's decades out of dates. Because it's the thing, and I've got, you can find the one they most often quote, which is the second edition. They'll quote from that like it's the gospel, but they quote it wrong.
The thing is, I have a friend that's an attorney, a very close friend that's an attorney, as a matter of fact. And she says all the time, yelling and screaming when I ask her questions about this. First of all, Black's Law Dictionary is simply a dictionary.
Yes.
It is not a law book at all. It never has been.
It never was meant to be.
It's the gospel according to St. Judge Judy. Don't be an idiot.
Which isn't, and again, the Black's Law is a useful resource, especially if you keep the up-to-date version.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking up terms,
yeah,
sure.
the one with the Apocrypha editions of Judge Wapner.
And here's another common thing you'll find, which also relates to a particular figure I want to talk about, who managed to hit the trifecta of nuts in being a young Earth creationist and a sovereign citizen.
Oh gosh!
But
here we go.
What you run into with this mindset is they tend to rely very heavily on experts.
Oh, of course.
Instead of doing their own research. So somebody on YouTube says that Black's Law Dictionary says X. So therefore, they just say Black's Law Dictionary says X. If you go and look up what the Black's Law actually said, what the actual definition is according to their own source, it doesn't say that.
Context.
Well, you know how many times I've debunked people in the comment section by using what Black's Law really says?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you
they
actually
don't seem to be able to quote it properly. I had a funny comment come in a couple of weeks ago. It was from a Moorish person, quote-unquote Moorish person, and they said this in the comments. Look this up in Black Man's Dictionary. Black Man's Dictionary.
The Black Man's Dictionary.
Right.
Well, it's the other dictionary. It's the it's the special edition. It's the special edition.
This is the gospel according to Malcolm.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
But, and you'll find this as well. You find this with a lot of, and ultimately the guy I mentioned at the beginning of the show is a counterexample of this, because talking to him a little more, it was miscommunication on my part, not actually that he said what I thought he was saying. So, Chris, since you're on the chat and contributing, I will acknowledge that I was clearly mistaken.
Huzzah.
And we actually seem to agree, and we can get it. We'll get into that more next week.
Mm-hmm.
But what you run into is people quote sources, quote the expert quoting the source. A a good example of this aside from Black's Law is this guy I wanted to bring up, who is Dr., and I use the term doctor loosely, Kent Hovind. In the young Earth creationist movement, the people that are absolutely convinced the world is 6,000 years old, and that Genesis is 100% literally, scientifically, provably true. He is the head of he is the top. This is the guy, the top expert, right up there with Ken Ham. He has a whole series of videos on the subject that you can find all over YouTube. One of my personal favorite recent ones was how the existence of broccoli proves that evolution can't happen, because how could that have evolved?
Oh, I remember that. We talked about that.
Yes, we did. And the kicker there is broccoli didn't evolve. It's an example of selective breeding.
Yes.
It'd make an interesting argument for intelligent design and the idea of a directed, guided evolution, but it doesn't make a good argument for evolution doesn't happen.
Not when it's demonstrably been manipulated by humans to its current state.
But here's the thing. So, the reason I say that I use the term doctor loosely, he has, I want to say 4 now doctorates, none of which is from an accredited university. He doesn't even, the only thing he has from like an accredited school is his high school diploma.
So he's the equivalent of a Kentucky colonel. Is pretty
no,
much.
I would give more credit to Kentucky colonel, because they actually have to do and his doctorate his doctoral thesis is available online. I haven't taken a look at it yet, but having looked at a number of sources who have, the man needed a basic editor, not even a professional, just like somebody who could
just run it through spell check, you know.
It's just badly written. But here's the funny thing: he spent 10 years in prison for income tax evasion.
Okay.
Well, he'll say specifically structuring. The reality is he spent 10 years in prison for a laundry list of tax fraud charges.
Red flag number 1.
The simplest one, and the one that he says his supporters regularly say was completely made up, is what they call structuring. Structuring is when if you withdraw more than 10 grand out of the bank has to report it to the IRS.
Right.
So instead, you send your flunkies to draw lots of things just under 10 grand out to get around the reporting requirements.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, he did that. Yes, it's illegal because you're just trying to con the IRS out of having to pay them. But here's where the sovereign angle comes in. When he gets called into court, he claims he is a sovereign child of God and therefore does not have to pay income tax.
It's a good one, isn't it, guys?
Yeah.
It's a great
Isn't that a good one?
Yeah.
My brain just broke.
I'd love to be able to, I'll be honest. I'd love to be able to legally and honestly do that. Wouldn't you like to stop paying income tax? If you could do it legally?
Yeah.
I get the purpose. Don't get me wrong. I get the purpose of income tax. I'm not necessarily saying it should be abolished. But it would be nice on a personal level not to have to pay into it.
I usually don't make enough to have to pay it.
The irony of that is that these people that are within this movement or actually fall for the scams within this movement, actually the majority of them consider themselves to be conservative, right?
Yes.
And, as conservatives, you have a basic core principle. The conservatives believe that you work hard, you make a living, you take care of your family, and you hold your cards close to the vest. You don't release money without fully researching and fully understanding what charity you might be giving to, or who you might be lending money out to, or what you might be investing in, right?
Yeah. Sounds like common sense.
But when it comes to these scams, when it comes to these particular scams about the secret trust accounts and the monetized birth certificates and all of these different scams where they are being told that there's millions of dollars put in trust accounts for them, all of a sudden their viewpoint goes straight from being a conservative supposed viewpoint to now all of a sudden it doesn't have to be money they made. Now it can be money that somebody else put aside and their name was on it, so therefore they're entitled to it.
Oh yeah, no, they just want to get paid.
People that claim that they do not want big government, or they do not want, there to be in certain parts of income tax because of the social welfare programs, mainly, is what the bigger complaint that I've noticed is. But yet, when it comes down to this being entirely based upon HJR 192, which they misinterpret all the time.
Oh, yes.
All right, but what their thought is that, it's, hey, this is my remedy, and it doesn't matter whether I made this money or not. I should have it. It should be mine. Now, all of a sudden, they're part of that social welfare program. It boggles my mind.
And not just part of that social welfare program, they're the exact people that conservatives are complaining about. Because the reality is, having known a lot of people, well, I am right-leaning, I've known a lot of people on welfare, and most of them would be much happier if they could get off of welfare.
Yeah.
But the sovereigns of the world are holding their hand out and saying, gimme, 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 gimme. I don't want to work, just give me money. So they are the stereotype that conservatives make fun of and uses to prop up, there shouldn't be social welfare programs. You are that person.
But when you're not giving me money, you're not allowed to have any authority over me either.
Yeah.
Whether you give me money or not, I am not, I'm outside of your jurisdiction, whatever jurisdiction that is. I'm outside of it.
It's that
I
whole
can break any law I want to break. I can stop paying income tax. I can stop carrying a driver's license and insurance. I can, do whatever the heck I want to do because I'm me and I'm a sovereign.
Again, it comes down to that whole psychological bit of I have more power than everybody else, and you know what? It's a, I guess you could call it a tribute to the mentality of money that is gifted is so much sweeter and a hell of a lot more enjoyable than money that is earned.
Well, and it's like you were saying with the psychological thing, it's also everybody wants to feel like they're in on the trick.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody believes that there are these certain tricks. They know that there are tricks that rich people use to stay rich and to avoid paying taxes. They want their tricks too. They want to feel like I have this edge that I know about that other people don't.
I know the trick to staying rich.
And when somebody presents them with this...
Starting with a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. Being rich.
Being born into money, yeah.
I do want to give out the number real quick because we have, in fact, hit over the hour mark, in fact.
Yes.
Huzzah!
So if anybody would like to call in to questions and comments, feel free at 609-807-2492. 609-807-2492. I do want to point out in general that
we love all our callers.
We love our callers too. We don't necessarily, you don't have to wait till I give the number out. That's why it's on the bottom of the screen.
Oh, yeah.
I just do it to try and nudge people and try and get a call in from once in a while. I also want to say with what Brian's saying, because Brian, you're absolutely right. People want to feel clued in.
Yeah.
And that mindset underwrites all of this so much. Why do people love conspiracy theories? Because I know something you don't know. They
can be part of a secret club.
Exactly.
Not supposed to talk about that.
That's why people are part of a big part of why people are in the flat Earth movement. Because everyone else is fooled. I'm the one smart enough to figure it out.
Do you guys remember George Carlin?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my hero, a fellow airman, a fellow comm airman, as a matter of fact. Yes, I do. I was actually at his last venue.
Made a comment on one of his stand-up routines at one point where he said, it's a great big club and you're not in it.
Yes.
And in this case, it's a great big club and nobody's in it because there is nothing truthful about these accounts at all. And I just have to make that absolutely clear because a lot of people that run across my channel and that will run across yours too are not going to understand that it's not just about these people that are selling packages not knowing what they're doing. These accounts literally don't exist. So anybody selling the accounts or selling the packages are selling fraud. It does not exist. So I just wanted to make sure I made that clear.
Oh no, I've seen so many people. It's like who go on your channel and in their comments are like, well, so how do I do this?
Right. Or can I pay you to do it for me, Virgo? I love that one.
Yeah, exactly. Because obviously you must know.
Well, a good example, and Christopher Fowler brought this up originally, which was the charlatans you find on TV today who do so many, particularly the Christian preachers who do so many scams, and historically, the Peter Popoffs, the Bakers, all of these people who have done all these ridiculous, shameless scams in the name of God to make money.
Their big slogan is, God is all-powerful, all-knowing, all-present. Just can't handle money. He needs money. He loves you. He needs money.
Well, there's the one, and I don't remember which one, but there's one who was like, God is going to strike me dead unless you donate enough money.
Oh, God, yeah. God needs that new Lear jet.
Oh, I wanted to call that
Yeah,
bluff
well, what
so
I don't
much.
understand is, here's what I don't get. I mean, breaking it down to all seriousness, you guys, what in the hell is God trying to buy?
Exactly.
What does God need with a starship?
Yes.
What is he trying to buy with all these greenbacks? I don't get it.
Don't you get it? Greenbacks make the world go round. No, wait, go flat. Damn it.
I wish I do. I mean,
this is why I'm the comic relief.
Again, there are Christian, there are Christians preachers in the world that we're not harping on, because they're, my mentor, the late Father Joseph Rose, he ran an inner city church, lived in a row home, not a townhouse. I mean, he lived a very simple life, and didn't ask for gobs of money. And every time I talked to the man, it was, I can't talk very long, Kevin. I've got to go visit somebody in the hospital who's sick. Mm-hmm. I've got to go visit the old folks' home to cheer them up. Every day he was doing, all of his time, unless his medical issues made it physically impossible for him to do so, was spent doing his job, which was tending to the flock. And there are many, preachers out there like that. Not just Christians either. I don't want to make it sound like we've got a monopoly.
They are the biggest, though. Yeah. You got to admit. I hate saying it. They're the most publicized. They're the most televised. Yeah. With the exception of a slight period during the 90s when you had the big, the John Edwards of, media left and right.
Oh, yeah.
And that was mostly in the mid to late 90s. But for the most part, I mean, the televangelist movement alone. Wow.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, no.
I wish we had their ratings.
In terms of the scams, well, no, I was saying the positive side, Christians aren't the only ones.
True.
The negative side, Christians aren't the only ones running scams in the name of God, but we almost corner the market.
Oh, gosh, yes. The only other ones that are worse than that are the Scientologists. I'm not saying that out loud.
The other ones that are, the ones that are the worst of the worst that are the various cult leaders.
Oh, yeah.
Tom Cruise is coming for you.
No!
He's too busy being in the closet.
But
you're in the closet.
And again, it comes down to a lot of it. And I think the Bible says something very good on this subject, which was the love of money is the root of all evil. Or sometimes, and I think
it's far easier for to slip a camel through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven.
Which actually, as I understand it, it's not a mistranslation, but there's a misunderstanding there. Because there was basically the city of Jerusalem had a back gate that was where you would go at night, and was very narrow, and it was very difficult to get a camel through, that they called the eye of the needle. And because rich men, there are good, honest, hardworking rich people out there.
George Burns.
He
was God. Twice.
Bill Gates does a
Morgan
lot of
Freeman. He's been God several times.
He was three times.
Morgan Freeman does a lot of charitable work.
Another airman.
Bill Gates does a lot of charitable work. There are a lot of, but greed, that love of money, that money as a driving force.
Oh yes,
is a central part of maybe not all, but a huge portion of the problems with the world,
especially in America.
Oh, we always want more.
Yeah.
One more? I want a bigger one.
And
Well, I don't know about all of this eye of the needle stuff, you guys, but I'll tell you what, if you don't believe that money is dirty, think of all the strip joints we've got in the U.S.
Hey.
There's nothing wrong with strip joints.
Agreed. There is nothing wrong with strip joints.
If anyone doesn't think that money is dirty, keep in mind that a significant portion of dollar bills have traces of cocaine.
Especially all the hundreds.
That's because of all the strip joints, Kevin.
Oh, come on.
That is not due to the strip joints. That's all to all the dealers on the corner. There's a difference.
Yeah.
Well, actually, what it really is the reality of Okay, in fact, 90% of U.S. bills carry traces of cocaine, according to CNN.com.
Just shows the circulation.
Well, what it is because it's a powder and the way that cocaine powder works, if it's on one bill, when those bills get sorted in a bank and put together, it spreads to all of them.
Okay.
So it's more that than actually that 90% of the dollar bills in the country have been used to snort.
It's 7 degrees of Escobar. This dollar touched this dollar, that touched this dollar, that touched this dollar. That was from cocaine.
It was from the 80s, man. It was the 80s.
Christopher Fowler, I have to say, Christopher, he and I started at odds with each other on YouTube. I'm starting to like this guy. His comment was, those poor girls are working their way through college.
Yes,
yep.
every one of them. They're all would-be lawyers.
I need to know, seriously, what educational institute is taking singles? I got to know.
Come in with the
seriously
the big bankroll of singles every.
Of course, you know what? This should cover my tuition for the next 3 semesters, please.
Yeah.
And by the way, I didn't say there was anything wrong with the strip joints. I said the money is dirty.
Oh, that's true.
Given where it winds up going.
Don't be words in my mouth. Don't do that now.
I'm sorry, but you're absolutely right, and that was bad of me.
It's true.
Bad Kevin.
My boxer is sitting here staring at me, trying to figure out, why are you talking to yourself? Because I'm on Bluetooth.
Well, that's always the thing with doing YouTube or doing radio. I remember seeing a thing, describe what you do for a living badly. So I picked doing radio. So I described it as sitting in a room and talking to thin air. About, specifically in my case, I sit in a room and I talk to thin air about things that most people don't believe in.
So in other words, paranormal research. I'm sorry, I had to do that.
No, that's totally fair.
I had to do that.
That's totally fair.
Considering I'm a medium, that feels bad.
Somebody texted me just a minute ago and asked me why it is that they can't. Are we not on live on YouTube?
I thought we were.
No, we weren't able to explain that.
Oh, we're on Facebook.
We're on live on Facebook. Unfortunately, it'll go up on YouTube after the show.
Oh, okay, all right. I will let them know that then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. It's a flurry of technical problems. This does, although your
technology
about the paranormal does lead me to another group of scam artists I want to comment on.
Yes.
Oh, please.
There are a lot of paranormal groups out there, and I'm not going to name names, that are ripping you off.
Taps. Name them.
No, actually, Taps is... No, I'll comment on your cough, specifically because of what I know. Taps is one of the better groups. I don't know the guys personally, but my mentor, Lou, had worked with them and never had anything bad to say about them. As far as I know, they're a solid group. But there are groups out there that if you go to them and say, help, I have a poltergeist in my house, it's $750 to have a phone call consultation, and then it's going to be $1,000 for the investigation, and so much for the exorcism. And if anyone out there goes to a paranormal group and they quote you a price on investigating your house,
hang up the phone.
Yes.
Yeah, this isn't Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with tarot readers.
I had no idea that they were out there charging that kind of money.
They are, unfortunately. And yes, our producer Beth's absolutely right. You run into the same thing with the tarot readers that charge ridiculous.
The thing is, most of them, when they're not doing it properly,
that's terrible.
Or if they're faking it, they'll do it back to back to back to back to back, and it's the same thing with the cold reading that Chris was going on about earlier. Or they're just very good at your cues.
Mm-hmm.
Very well.
Yes.
Whereas somebody who is actually, and I say this because I've read myself.
Yes.
And it's a draining process, and there's no real set time limit. They try to have a particular time limit, even the people that do it. But the thing is, if it's that important, and especially if it's a complicated read, it could take the better part of an hour and a half. That's because it's information you need to know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll say this, folks, if you need somebody to investigate your house, feel free to reach out to me. If you're close to New Jersey, I can come out personally. If you're not, I have contacts with other groups around the country and even around the world to some extent, and I will help you find somebody. And the rule that I go by and the rule that groups that I work with go by is this: if you're within 2-hour driving distance of where I live, I won't charge you a penny. If you're outside of that area, you're going to have to kick me. If you really want me to drive to upstate New York in the middle of the night, you're going to have to kick me gas money.
Just gas money.
Yeah, which is
and
not
tolls.
unreasonable.
And tolls.
Yeah. And also, realistically, if I'm going to have to be there overnight, expect that I'm going to crash on your floor or couch. If you've got the money and you want to do it, you're free to stick me in a hotel, but I sleep on couches, I've slept on floors. It's the reality of the situation, of the fact that I'm not independently wealthy. I can't go as much as I would like to, I can't go all over the world trying to help people with this. On the other hand, this is also why there are legitimate groups all throughout the United States. If I can't help you, I will help you find someone who can. Some other good resources to look into would, in fact, be the Atlantic Paranormal Society, aka TAPS, New England Society for Psychic Research, Paranormal Research Society of New England, and Paranormal Society for Presney. And I should remember them, because I know all the people who run it. I really should remember what it stands for. It's Paranormal Society for Research and Education, which is based in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
My
All of
neck
whom
of the
you
woods.
can find by Googling it or by looking it up on Facebook, and they're solid people that will help you without charging exorbitant fees.
Exactly. The thing is that if you have the capability to help people out and you're charging, no. No.
I'll put it like this. The single most famous people that do specifically what I do would be the late Ed and his wife Lorraine Warren, and Lorraine is still around. They're internationally known. They have movies being made about them. They had TV movies made about them back in the day. They've written a ton of books. They didn't charge.
Yeah. They did not charge a penny. Did not charge a dime.
Yeah.
Help people out.
Yeah. Their nephew, John Zaffis, who's had his own TV series, Paranormal Collector. He doesn't charge. He's well known. He's written books. He talks all over the country. He has had his own TV series. If those people who are the best known and honestly have higher success rates than I do or almost anybody else, because they've been doing it longer and they know more than I do, I'll be honest. If they don't ask for money, what right do the rest of us who've been doing it for a few years have to say you have to pay us this ridiculous sum of money to help you? And we are sadly just about out of time. Virgo, before anything else, I want to give you a chance to plug your the various projects you've got going on right now, because I like what you're doing with that website, and I want to see this happen.
Okay. Well, right now the Virgo Triad channel has a GoFundMe account that I'm confident that Kevin will put up.
Yep, it'll be in the description
comment
tonight.
Section or in the description.
Mm-hmm.
For people to take a look at. What that's for is the VirgoTriad.com website, and that website is going to be a rather large platform. It's not just going to be a normal little website. This will have a debunking index in it that will assist people with being able to find the truth about facts that it right now is taking you 15 to 20 pages to actually get to because of these scams that are going on. It will have some support groups. We're going to have a fund that will be assisting those that are being taken advantage of that are disabled or elderly, very similar to what you see in the Attorney General's Victims Fund. We will have virtually every scam that we can find that's online on any social media platform or web pages alone that will be taken apart and researched and put on that website so that people can be aware. There needs to be a much larger platform for people to take a look at and check in order to ensure that they're not being taken advantage of. And right now, there just simply isn't anything like that out there. So it's desperately needed. That kind of platform is rather expensive, and that is the reason the GoFundMe is set up. For people that choose to donate $50 or more, the ebook is coming out September 25th. It's going to be provided to those people as a token of thank you, basically, to those that provide a donation of $50 or more. And then, of course, it will, after the fact, it'll be going up for sale in addition after October 1st for those that just want the ebook and don't want to donate to GoFundMe. But it's a very good cause. It's something that my researchers and people from the FBI, lots of law enforcement have assisted with trying to get going, and this quite simply is just the easiest way to try and get kind of the community involved, the online community involved in an attempt to try to help get the funds together to get that site put up.
And I'll say flat out, if it isn't already clear to my audience, I really support what you're doing here. This is why I was happy to have you back. This is why I'm happy to promote it. People need to know and need to stop being, you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free from the Bible and, of course, the CIA's motto.
Mm-hmm.
People need this information, and I applaud your efforts to get it out there.
Well, thank you so much, and I really appreciate you allowing me to, kind of pump up my own campaign on your channels also.
Our pleasure.
It desperately needs more media out there for people to be aware that the GoFundMe is set up. It's a campaign for a very specific purpose. It's not just a, hey, I need a new car type of thing,
Although
and it's something
like
that's going to benefit. I mean, like you said, you're gonna have a victims fund on there. This is going to benefit a lot of people that are being hurt.
Because there's so many. I mean, I don't know whether you guys have actually heard them or not. Kevin, you probably have. Penny Metheny, she is disabled, very disabled. She just not too long ago had a stroke in addition.
I'm so sorry to hear
care of
that.
a disabled son, and she was taken by April or June. And then Kevin Buford, which is a disabled veteran who was recently taken by April or June. She preys on the disabled and the elderly.
And I want to give a moment of thanks to those two people because they're the ones that you interviewed on your channel, are they not?
Those are two of the clients that I have, yes. I've also done all kinds of employees of hers.
Yes.
She's lost all of her employees because of this scam. But yes, those two, they were the most recent clients.
I wanted to give credit because, I mean, it takes a lot of courage to be an employee of someone like April LeJeune and come forward, or her children, because you've had them on as well. But to have been hoodwinked, to have been fooled by one of these deceptions, but then to come out and say, you know what, I've been deceived, and I want to tell my story and make a stand so other people aren't, takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
And respect to those people that have been willing to do that.
Yeah, they're incredibly brave because, believe me, the people that follow this movement they have no qualms about sending death threats and that kind of thing. And Penny in particular has taken a lot of brunt from these people. They can get very, very ugly, so it takes a lot of courage to come forward.
Indeed. Unfortunately, that is going to do it for this week. Baron's going to read off our last ad, and then we're going to have to get going. Virgo, thank you again so much for coming. You are always a pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you so much, you guys.
And have a wonderful night.
Very awesome.
You too.
All right, time for me to turn on the dulcet tones?
Yep.
Very well.
Now a word from our sponsor.
Now a word from our second sponsor. Everyone is concerned about internet security these days, from governments to major corporations. Even the average internet user should be concerned about who's seeing your online information and how that information can be used. NordVPN is the answer you've been looking for. A VPN is a virtual private network that protects your IP address so that your online activity is protected by a military-grade encryption. The way it works is you connect to Nord's protected network, and then they connect to the internet. It is a layer of protection between you and all the viruses, malware, and snoopers out there. Nord works on all devices too, not just computers. Your phone, tablet, whatever, up to 6 devices at a time, regardless of what operating system they use. Nord works with them all. Access all the internet content you want, streaming media, websites, and social platforms. Nothing is restricted on Nord. So, it's a great way to get around those pesky firewalls at work, or maybe if you live in a country that's not so internet friendly. They have easy plans starting at a month for $11.95 down to 3-year plans for as low as $275 a month. Check it out risk-free at nordvpn.com and you'll be glad you did.
Remember, there's a link in the description below to help out the show by checking out Nord, as well as there'll be links for the Audible trial, Nord, and Virgo, both her website, her YouTube channel, and her GoFundMe. Check all those out. I want to remind folks of a couple of details. One is the interview I was supposed to do on Sunday with Skylar Fiction is being pushed to this coming Sunday. I've had some back problems, so we had to just shift things around a little bit. Skylar's a very nice guy and very understanding about it. It's probably going to be, it looks like we're going to be doing it at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on the Skylar Fiction channel on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description. Remember, next week is going to be a special retrospective. We're going to see if we can drag anybody in. Since Tuesday makes 1 year since we started up here on Hamilton Radio. If anybody out there is listening has questions or comments, please feel free to call in next week or email us if you're not comfortable going out live on air. But that's going to do it for tonight. This is Kevin Mears saying good night and God bless.
Brian McKinley.
And Baron Voltage.
You're not going to do the lightning rods?
Oh, I was waiting on him. He kind of threw me off a bit.
You guys are disappointing me.
Well, I always say avoid lightning rods because I don't want to get zapped again.
We're running late. I was trying to cut it short.
But good night, everyone. Thanks for listening.
God bless.